So let's talk about Florida Memorial when it was in St. Augustine. Let's hear how what did it smell like? How was the atmosphere? What was the atmosphere like in St. Augustine?
The campus itself was a small, close-knit family. It was very small, located way outside of the city limits. In fact, it was right on the edge of the woods, the forest, and that sort of thing. But we were very comfortable there. We felt very fine there. However, you have to remember that St. Augustine was a racist town, okay? And so therefore, they didn't really want us there. There were times that we would go into town to buy some goods, like deodorant, and soap, detergent, and other little items that we needed or wanted, or just to visit and see what was there in the town. And at one time, something was going on, I've forgotten exactly what it was, about a racial disturbance. And you could hear some men saying, white men saying, let the dogs loose, let the dogs loose, let the dogs loose on them. And some of us became scared, but we kept doing what we were doing. We didn't give up. We had a cause and we were fighting for that cause, and so we went on. And a little before I got to St. Augustine, I got there in the fall of '65. There had been an incident at a motel there in St. Augustine, where a black boy, black young man, was eyeing a white woman. And I think it was that they wanted to get him arrested for reckless eyeballing.
Whoa.
Yes, reckless eyeballing. Because he was looking at this white woman. In other words, we weren't supposed to look at white women at all. But it's just that we weren't accustomed to seeing them in bathing suits or whatever. We've seen white women, but not primarily in a bathing suit. And so I don't know the young man, never got to meet him or anything like that, but that's what one of the stories was about this young man. And a lot of times they were stopping, pick up young men on the side of the street and beat them up and leave them lying on the side of the street or in the woods or something like that. And so it was a very tough time because racism was very strong. And it's still strong today, perhaps not as strong as it was then. They're a little bit more they were outspoken then about it. But it's gotten better, but it's not gotten to the point where it's not good for us. And they didn't come out, they would drive through the campus because one part of the campus had our dormitories on it, where the boys lived. The other side had the girls' dormitory and classroom buildings and cafeteria and other places like that. And so they would sometimes drive through campus and that sort of thing. They wouldn't stop and do anything. And if they did, somebody got rid of it before the next morning so that you didn't see it and become alarmed at what was going on. Because those white folks were way out there. They loved to live way out. The school was way out.
So let me get a little clarification. You mentioned they would go on campus, but they would hide something before?
No, they would go through the campus.
Okay.
They would go through the campus, they'd just drive right on through.
Right.
They may just take something out of a car and just throw it onto the side of the road where the campus was. And maybe the next morning somebody saw it and they would just get rid of it before anybody else saw it. And we became worried. Now, some of the guys on campus, when they left home, they had guns. They had guns. Just like today, a lot of the guys leave home and they have guns and they take to school with them. That's not the greatest thing in the world to do. It's not the smartest thing in the world to do, but they did it. And I guess they figured that one day they were going to need it. And in some cases, they did.
Did they use it?
Yes. They didn't actually come out and just display the guns. It's just that when something happened, they would be ready. They would come out on campus perhaps and they might be hiding their guns. And if somebody started doing something, well, they just pulled them out and they started shooting.
Okay.
They would start shooting. It's not that they walked out on campus big, bad, and bold, and carrying the gun in their hand or over their shoulder or anything like that. It's just that they hid it. Because the president of the college at the time, Dr. Collier, didn't hold kindly to that kind of stuff. Because he would send you home with a bag lunch and a couple of dollars in a heartbeat. Okay? Telling you not to come back. Because he did not play. He was a disciplinarian, and everybody knew that, and they tried to abide by the college rules and abide by what he said to do, because he was trying to produce young men and women on that campus, and he did produce a lot of good men and women on that campus, a lot of them.